Hello, welcome back for episode 40 of the Intern's Oddities. And today we're digging deeper into the Manhattan Project. There's a little bit more that I had to talk about on the episode, but I didn't want to go too long and, people lose interest or have to leave or anything else. So I thought I would save some stuff for the Intern's Oddities this weekend. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? You know what they say, save the best for last, right? So today we're going to get started with Einstein, Oppenheimer, and moral collapse. Einstein never worked on the Manhattan Project. He was deemed too radical, but after the war, he spoke out constantly against the bomb. Oppenheimer, too, began to change. He met with President Truman and said, "I feel I have blood on my hands." Truman, furious, called him a crybaby, a blithering nincompoop. Leo Szilard, who helped start it all, wrote a petition in July 1945 begging the president to give Japan a chance to surrender before using the bomb. It never reached Truman. Szilard later said Truman didn't understand. He treated the bomb like another bullet in the gun. And also, as I mentioned on the episode the other day, yeah, we get it. It's the 4th of July. Hush up, fireworks. And as I mentioned the other day, Einstein actually tried to warn them that there was the potential that every time they ignite one of these bombs, every time they set one of these bombs off, they warned them that there was a potential they could literally set the entire atmosphere on fire, literally destroy the entire planet, like explode it. And they're like, but we could also, destroy our enemies very easily and very quickly. So why don't we do that? The military application of science and its complete refusal to listen to warnings will never cease to amaze me. Another scary thing about science and its military applications and potential military use is I recently discovered that the CERN particle collider, where they're crashing everything together, one of the theories is that the Big Bang, I actually recently came across this theory that suggested that the Big Bang might have happened from a universe colliding with our universe, and essentially there's a possibility that they could recreate that with the particle collider. And one of the main things that they're actually trying to do, like intentionally attempting to do with the CERN particle collider, is they're intentionally trying to create very tiny black holes. And what makes it even more fun, they're looking to build a new version, an even larger version of the super collider very soon, in the next 10 to 15 years, I believe it was, if I remember correctly, just off the top of my head. And so that was pretty interesting. So we're going to talk about some scientist reflections now. Others felt the same. Kay Way, one of the few women physicists in Los Alamos, later said, "We were chasing a bomb, but I never dreamed it would be used this way." Robert Wilson wrote in his diary after the Trinity test, "I felt pride, but it was short-lived. That pride was washed away by fear and then shame." And then we're going to get into the aftermath and the betrayal. So, after the war, Oppenheimer opposed the development of the hydrogen bomb. He warned of a spiraling arms race. That stance made him a target. In 1954, he was dragged before a security hearing, and as past associations were aired, his security clearance was revoked. By past associations, they mean his association with the Communist Party. They caught him hanging out at Communist parties. Okay, this is going to sound really weird and redundant, but He was at a lot of Communist Party parties. I was trying to avoid saying that, but I don't know how else to say it. He was at a bunch of parties that were hosted by Communist Party members. And though he never officially joined the Communist Party himself, he was often seen hanging around with them and thus was associated with them. In 1954, oh wait, you already said that, my bad. The man who helped build the bomb was exiled from power after they revoked his security clearance, and he died of throat cancer in 1967. And then there are some modern physicist interviews, but the burden didn't end there. Dr. Laura Grego of the Union of Concerned Scientists warns that the nuclear threat never left. She says we must pick up where Oppenheimer left off. Science is not just about what we can do, but what we shouldn't do, such as trying to make black holes in the lab, but whatever. Dr. Frank von Hippel of Princeton says, when you learn to split the atom, you inherit a responsibility. You are accountable for what that knowledge unleashes. And I'd like to go a little bit deeper on that. As someone with some theoretical physics ideas of myself, I think what he's saying is that if you discover something this dangerous, be it weapons, technology, whatever, if you make a discovery, it is your responsibility as the person making the initial discovery. It is your responsibility to make sure that you create a set of rules and guidelines to keep people's ethics and morals in check and not just rely on them to maintain ethical and moral standards, but you have to, whatever the technology is, it's up to you as the discovery person, like as the discoverer, it's up to you to find a way to regulate any sort of new technology or discovery so that it cannot be used or weaponized to cause such massive levels of damage. And that's one reason why it's so important that only certain people have access to certain areas of knowledge. I used to be a big believer that everyone should know everything, but after some of the things that I know now and some of the things that I believe I've learned recently, especially looking into theoretical physics and chemistry, there's a lot of dangerous things that you can learn from chemistry. And, I'm not trying to go too far into detail, but let's just say that, if you are the first person to discover something, it's up to you to find a way to regulate that and make sure that the power or knowledge is not abused. And to close this part out right here, Dr. Joseph Nye reminds us mutually assured destruction is not a strategy, it is a confession. Like, if the west if the west side of the country builds up a bunch of bombs and the east side of the country builds up a bunch of bombs, then it's actually not any safer for the west or the east. It's actually much more dangerous for the whole entire planet. Just my personal opinion, but whatever. Play Metal Gear Solid 5 if you want to know why nuclear war is dangerous. The Metal Gear Solid series, as much as some people mock them and talk about the complicated stories, that series does one thing better than any other piece of media I've ever seen, and that one thing is it warns people about the dangers of nuclear proliferation and participating in this deadly arms race. But I digress. The Manhattan Project split the atom and split the conscience of a generation, as we said the other day. So, my point being, I want to think about in closing tonight, I would like to start thinking about the quantum realm and how the physics that we know and understand don't truly apply in the quantum realm. Well, the atom, we split that and create this big explosion. So, what if there's something in the quantum realm that we get to a point where we learn that there's something even deeper than the boson Higgs particle, deeper than the God particle, whatever? What if one day they learn to split the God particle and that creates an explosion so big it destroys the entire planet, and not just the planet, but the entire galaxy as we know it, and that Big Bang is actually something that we created as humans? What if we created the Big Bang by advancing our knowledge of science and our militaristic aspirations far too much and far too greater than we ever should have? What if the timeline that we know now was created by us because we went too far with our militaristic aspirations and we reset ourselves? I don't really know that to be certain. Just some interesting thoughts that I've been having recently. And I think the quantum realm is very, very interesting to me. And I would like to know what you all think about the quantum realm. If you would like to post your thoughts in the comments or send us email, thisuncanny@gmail.com. You can even make a blog post over on ltatm.net and just let us know what you think about all this, and let us know if you would have participated in the project, or what if you think there's a chance that we could ever see another weapons advancement this large and this powerful. And do you think science will ever advance to a point where we end up destroying the world as we know it? Let us know what you think. So, as always, do your own research and get back to us with your answers. And stay uncanny. Thank you.